Next speaker is Jennifer Claudio. She's a teacher here in the heart of Silicon Valley, and she's going to talk about typographic explorations in two unicase alphabets.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Claudio. I'm a teacher at Oak Grove High School in San Jose, California. And for TUG 2020, I'd like to present a talk titled Typographical Methods of Emotional Expression in Two Unicase Alphabets. And this talk is about my playful excursions into a couple of alphabets that are different from the Latin alphabet of English. And it will begin with a story, possibly an alphabet story. So once upon a time, someone found a web image and they sent it to me. And this is the web image that I received. So it reads, "I will always find you." These two notes convey very different meanings. So people send me these images because they know I teach forensic science, and because occasionally I'll talk about some TUG conference that I attend, which deals with typography. So whenever something deals with typography or something that looks like a slasher font, they'll send it to me. And if you think in context, as a high school teacher, if you get one of these notes actually on your desk, both likely mean the end of your career. But this is just playful talk, and I just wanted to mention that there's different ways that things can be conveyed. And so I immediately wondered, though, how could these emotions be conveyed in a unicase alphabet system? Neither of those two had any punctuation. They were just written with the way that the letters are able to be formed. And so I meet people of diverse cultural and linguistic backgrounds, both through work and hobbies. And so recently I have been exploring other alphabets, including the Cyrillic alphabet, Arabic, and I'm fascinated by their parallels, differences, things that I might consider odd but are normal, and some of their conveniences. Last year at TUG, I spoke about some of the issues with OCR and Hangul, which is a unicase alphabet. And so, of course, that's going to be the natural first candidate for me to talk about, and I'll show that next. And so here Korean is an alphabetic syllabary. It's not actually a true alphabet. There are 24 actual letters comprised of consonants and vowels, but the rest of the sounds are actually 140 different sound syllabary, and this language has been changing, evolving over the last several years. Consonants and vowels, they combine to form sounds, and there is also a vertical relationship, and that was kind of the talk last year. But notice that there are no capital letters. The second alphabet that I found fascinating is Arabic, and this fascination stemmed from a 2007 TUG talk where there was a discussion about writings of the Quran that differed between the Persian script and the Arabic scripts, some of the other Arabic scripts, I should say. And in Arabic in general, letters have relationships with each other that depend on their position in a word. And so you have single, initial, medial, and final forms of letters, and not all of them look immediately similar to each other, as you can see on this table that I've got displayed. And so jumping in, there's a few texts I looked at. So here, how do we express emotion in this? You could use punctuation, so the natural would be exclamation marks, but without any of those cues, what is actually being conveyed without knowing all the context? And so I don't pick up a lot of emotion from this body of text without actually understanding the writing. And so I've got the heart in the title, which provides a clue, but maybe not enough. And then I see extended letters, but as a learner, maybe I don't realize that they're actually just typographical elongations for aesthetics. And so I don't know if that conveys an emotion there. And so in the next slide, I actually just highlight those elongations for you. So you see them boxed. Here we look at a few title slides, and with only the titles and not the whole cover photo, I wouldn't actually pick up emotion from these. I don't know what context, what emotional context I'm dealing with. So I wanted to explore the options. I wanted to see what was available just typographically without punctuation that could be used. And so that initial post that I had received was, "I will always find you." So I had those translated into Korean and into Arabic. So on the left, you see the Korean Hangul. that reads Nanan Hangsan Dangshiner Chajugoshipnida. And on the right, we have the Arabic Self Ajudak Daiman. And so this is just a plain text. I just went with the run-of-the-mill font because I don't actually have a whole lot of these installed on my system. So I was kind of working with what I had. So now I started looking at variations here. Like I said, plain text, no manipulations, nothing, just copyright. Here I've applied a bold text on the keyword of always. And the bold can actually be lost in this case. So just looking at it on the screen, if I didn't point out to you or if you didn't know either language, it would be a little bit hard to find that bold text. There was automatic kerning that happened as I produced these slides, and I found that a little interesting, but that's not what we're talking about today. Here I tried an italic. It looks a little bit unnatural for me. It makes me a little uneasy. I feel like the letters are tipping over. Maybe they've been drinking too much. Maybe they shouldn't be drinking. But it looks unnatural to me, and was not happy with how the italics were emphasizing this phrase. My next example here is the bold. Oh, that's not bold. My next example here is the underline. And the underline looks a little bit too sterile. It cuts into the letters. It cuts into the diacritic marker of the Arabic text. So underlining does not seem to be a great option for emphasis if I want to preserve the word the way that it's written. Here I played with an increased size. I didn't change any of the other attributes, but it looks like an unhealthy accident. It looks like maybe someone just didn't go back through and adjust the actual size. So it doesn't look healthy. I tried changing the whole font within the sentence, but as I mentioned, I didn't have a broad range of fonts to really work with. And I was just considering users who really might be in the same situation where they want to emphasize something but don't have a whole breadth of selection. And if I chose different families, it would definitely look different, or if I reversed the fonts and had a different base. But it didn't seem like it was a good option. Here I tried color changing. I went with the color yellow. It's pretty vibrant. It can be a little aggressive, but it's also, it's kind of used for shouting. So I tried that out, but it's not an option in all print media, although I do think that this really makes it stand out. And so the yellow against the two different color backgrounds could also convey a slight difference. But like I said, it's a playful talk. I was just messing around with some of the options. But now that we've looked at some of these hypothetical playful things that I did, I just wanted to show some real examples of how emphasized text actually appears. And so here we see comics. And comics are often a place where you're teaching a kid to read, and so they're learning about how to convey emotions. And so we do have this example, these two examples, I should say. There's indicators of emotional expression, but it's heavily dependent on the context of the drawing. So if I just cut that out, just cut out the words, it would actually be a little bit hard to identify that is even a bold face that's present there. Here's another example. I get a little more indicators of excitement. I've got the bold face, I've got the italics, I've got bubble letters. And if these were standalone letters, I think they actually depict more emphasis or more excitement, even without the image context of little kids shouting or those guys in the circle there. And so in our original English example, we did have the two images side by side with the same text. And we looked at emphasis in that one. And so because those were side-by-side emphasis versus, aggression versus endearment, I did want to look at a few endearment examples too. And so here, a sentence in Korean and Arabic once again. It's a little bit harder to create a contrast, to emphasize just one word to make the sentence either more aggressive or more endearing. So I went with pink. Traditionally, it's a softer color, a little more gentle, but once again, we face the issue that we don't always have the luxury of printing in color or providing print media in color. I tried changing to some cutesy fonts, like these handwriting style ones that you would see maybe on a happy greeting card. For Arabic, I was a little bit limited. For finding free fonts, I could see previews of some that I wanted to use, but I wasn't quite ready to pay for them yet. So I went with this one, and it's an outline letter, which I think can convey some softness and gentleness a little bit more than the other fonts that I had would have. But during these font searches, I did want to attribute some credit to something interesting that I found, and that's here. This image was mapped to the letter Z in the Muhammad Rasul Allah font, and I thought it looked great. And I'm not sure in what context I could personally use it, but I did want to give credit to that one there that I found. Here's a little more endearment. It was hard to make the original sentence endearingly cute, so I tried it with standalone words. In the Korean, because I've got the vowels, I changed those into hearts, and you can still kind of understand the meaning of the word there. For Arabic, I was a little stuck, and part of that is I'm just not as well versed in the language, and so I wasn't quite sure what I could do with it. So I actually had to choose another word. Instead of the daiman, I switched over to an actual form of endearment. And so I tried these out, where I could then turn some of the dots into hearts. And then in some of the play, I tried changing all the dots to hearts, and that didn't look good. So I tried this out just to share. And so we've got two forms of endearment, the yanin and habibati, as said toward a female. So this alphabet story is definitely to be continued. I would like to gather some data on the perception of emphasis and endearment in writing across different languages. I'd like to survey a population's perceived connection to their language, culture, and written expressions. I think these are important, as so many modes of social media are defaulting to maybe one language as opposed to one native language. So I do plan and hope to continue with this talk, maybe in a future TUG, upon gathering some data, recruiting some students possibly to conduct these studies for me. So I certainly hope that you will find me in a future talk. Thank you for your attention.